All right, let's talk CMMC. Getting ready for that level 2 audit? Man, it can feel like you're trying to solve some crazy, impossible puzzle, right? A puzzle with 1,000 moving pieces? Well, if that sounds even a little bit familiar, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to walk through a blueprint, a real roadmap that'll help you crack the code on being audit ready. Let's dive in.
So let's just get right to it. Is that Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, the CMMC audit, kind of looming over your head? I mean, if you're part of the defense industrial base, you know it's a huge challenge. It's the kind of thing that keeps a lot of really smart people up at night. And honestly, for very good reason. Does this look familiar? I bet it does. You've got evidence files just scattered everywhere. You're trying to track everything in these massive spreadsheets that are impossible to keep updated. There are mountains of paperwork, and of course, that constant, nagging feeling of audit anxiety. It's a super common and, let's be real, an incredibly stressful situation to be in.
But here's a thought. What if we're looking at this all wrong? Maybe the problem isn't that the 110 CMMC controls are just too complex. I mean, they're not simple. But what if the real challenge, the thing that's causing all the pain, is the pure chaos of just trying to manage it all?
This is where we need a totally different way of thinking. It's called a multi-module convergence architecture. Okay, I know, it's a technical term, but the idea behind it is actually really simple and powerful. What if all your separate compliance tools, all those different pieces, could talk to each other and work together as one single unified system? You go from chaos to clarity.
So how do we actually get from that chaos to that clarity? Well, it's not some overnight fix. It's a journey, a structured 28-week journey that's broken down into 5 really clear phases. This is your roadmap. It takes you right from the beginning, that initial assessment, all the way to getting that final certification. So let's walk through phase 1. Everything, and I mean everything, starts with a solid foundation. So in those first 4 weeks, phase 1 is all about doing a really thorough initial assessment. Because, you can't possibly fix what you don't even know is broken. Okay, so this phase has 4 key steps. First, you've got to do the assessment itself. That means interviewing your people, examining documents, and testing your tech. Second, you start uploading all of your evidence, and as you're doing that, an AI engine is working in the background, analyzing it and automatically mapping it to the right controls. Super cool. And finally, you use what's called the Shared Responsibility Matrix, or SRM, to get crystal clear on who is responsible for what.
So now you know exactly where your gaps are. The next step is for the system to help you create a detailed blueprint for how you're going to fix every single one of them.
The really powerful thing here is the automation. For every single gap you find, the system automatically spits out a plan of action and milestones, a POA&M. And from that POA&M, you can build out a detailed work plan, assign owners, bring in threat-informed tasks from MITRE ATT-M, and even forecast your entire budget. It literally turns your findings into a concrete plan of attack.
And this is where that multi-module architecture I mentioned earlier, this is where it does something that feels a little bit like magic. Just watch what happens when an assessor marks a single control as not met. And just like that, it kicks off this instant automated chain reaction. Bam! A POA&M gets generated. That triggers a new task in the work plan, and that task, it's immediately assigned to the right person. You don't have to do a thing. No manual steps, no risk of something getting dropped. It all just happens seamlessly in the background.
Okay, so you've got this solid plan in place. Now it's time to execute. And that brings us to phase 3, remediation. This is the longest phase for sure, and it's also the most critical. This is where your teams really get to work, closing every single one of those gaps you identified.
And the whole time, you're not flying blind. Not at all. You get this real-time visibility into your progress. You can track exactly how much of the work plan is complete, how many of those POA&Ms have been officially closed, and most importantly, you can see how many of your controls are now meeting those CMMC requirements. All right. We are in the final stretch now, phases 4 and 5. This is where all that hard work, all that preparation really pays off. It is all about getting ready for and absolutely conquering that final audit with your C3PAO, your certified third-party assessor organization. So in this final stage, you consolidate all that data and evidence you've been collecting. Then, with just a click, you generate a complete professional audit binder to hand over to your assessor. And when they start asking questions, you use the platform to give them answers instantly. And the final step? Well, that's achieving your CMMC Level 2 certification. So, you're probably wondering, what's the secret sauce here? What's the technology that's actually powering this whole journey and making this seamless, automated process even possible?
Well, it really comes down to three key pieces of tech. First, there's a real-time sync, which means your data is always up to date across every single part of the system. Second, there's a seriously powerful AI engine using models like Google Gemini that can actually read your evidence and understand which controls it supports. And third, there's an automated generator that can write your entire system security plan just by pulling data from all over the platform.
Now let's put this to the test. Just picture it. You're in the audit, the pressure's on. The C3PAO assessor leans forward, looks you right in the eye, and asks you a very specific and very tough question.
They say, show me all the evidence you have that supports Control 3.112. Now, this is the kind of question that, in the old days, would cause total panic. It would send teams scrambling through folders and spreadsheets for hours, maybe even days.
But with a system like this, no panic. Not at all. You just calmly turn to the screen, and in seconds, the Assessor Workspace pulls up every single piece of relevant evidence, every policy, every screenshot, every config file that is linked to that specific control. And this just brilliantly shows the power of having that central hub. The Assessor Workspace pulls everything together. Data from all 12 modules, your assessment data, your work plan, your PO&Ms, all of it into one single unified view. Everything the auditor needs to see is right there at your fingertips.
And that really brings us to the most important point of this whole thing. The goal here isn't just about surviving a really stressful audit every 3 years.
It's bigger than that. It's about building a solid foundation for continuous compliance so that you always have a strong security posture. It means being audit ready every single day. So the real question isn't just about how you'll pass the next audit. It's, are you ready to build that foundation?